and then, yes, just like that. Now you're gonna put this one in, and then you just like pound it in a bit. You push it in. It goes all. And then you're gonna, I would say in this case probably like that. This might be the best way to do it. No.
Bit thick on that side.
Yeah, like that. I have to do it like that. Just like a slide.
You still got, yeah, you still got a fair bit.
No, but
Like half a bucket. Okay. lép ki.
Not choking. And here what I'll do is there's a big crack, flick it on. Oh boy. Muszę jest. I have a lot to learn when it comes to tiling. It's good practice for me anyway.
Yeah.
Sure. Oh,
careful. Okay, it's gonna go to me because it's fun. I hate it. What?
You weren't. Why do you ever doubt me?
I never doubt you. It's just still scary.
Most a számdélat.
Don't move it. Okay. Go this way. There you go. That's fine. Wait.
Come on.
Left. Go.
same, similar.
Something thinner than that.
Lost my hat. So, I need more mortar.
This out. What? Standing in front of the timeline. Why does the outer wall have to be flat? You ready now?
Nope. Oh.
Yes, pasta.
really on the part. See about the shape. Oh, it should be okay. We'll get this part. See. Big. I mean, enough for this. Wow.
Idag kirka dag.
No, that's your way, Gary. works.